Now this is a very fun show, this one. Found it most interesting.
God bless.
Just demons. There's actually a book too, I don't know if you've heard about it, it's called Alien Intrusion by Gary Bates. And in that book, first of all, he debunks a lot of the sightings that people have actually, the footage and the things of that sort. It's a bit dated of a book, but in there he talks about the fact that too, that people who are in these abduction situations will actually cry out to Jesus, and then then boom, all of a sudden the abduction situation stops and they're sitting back in their bed or whatever the case actually is.
This is a great interview with a Catholic exorcist, American, most interesting, where he talks about angels and demons, and of course, where does this fit into Freemasonry, and how I was talking about the use of the light. How are angels and demons produced by this process, and how are the forsaken produced by this process?
Whereas if the person's possessed, you can beat him to the surface and force him to talk, and he'll talk. And then at that point, they'll, in order if the person was cursed, you have to break the curse, and that's going to be how you're going to liberate them. And so as a result.
So of course the Rothschild royal family cursed yours truly. Duncan collected 2 curses posted to me, and of course when they fail, the curse rebounds 3 times over according to witchcraft, their own rules, back on the Rothschild royal family. So Ian Huntley had to be crushed like a flea or roadkill in order that the curse didn't rebound on the Rothschild royal family. Similarly, if you've been in the forum, we've been doing some horrible things with Iris Goldsmith. So they deliberately blew up 160 odd Iranian schoolgirls. The first cruise missile went in, then called the parents to come and collect them. They knew it was full of school children, and then they sent a Block 4 Tomahawk that has an explosive to blast in, and then the main explosive detonates what's left of the fuel, so all of the Iranian schoolgirls were burnt to a crisp. Downloading the Iris Goldsmith curse, which was the Rothschild curse, where I'd be crushed like a flea, and my ramblings would have no effect on reality, all manifest in Iris Goldsmith, was then downloaded into 100 or more Iranian schoolgirls deliberately. So it doesn't look good for the Iranian schoolgirls or the Iranians, because with this Rothschild curse downloading into Iran, one should expect the whole of Iran to be burnt to a crisp like the schoolgirls. So their future looks very crispy.
So if the person's possessed, you'll actually, if they're not possessed, the demons can't talk necessarily. Whereas if the person's possessed, you can beat him to the surface and force him to talk, and he'll talk. And then at that point, they'll, if the person was cursed, you have to break the curse, and that's going to be how you're going to liberate them. And so as a result, the demon's going to have to tell you at some point who cursed them and how it was done. And then there's usually specific things that you can do to invert those or break the curses.
How many demons are there?
Billions, literally. So
we need to explain where the demons come from. Remember, we talked about lodges, churches, fountains, hating good and loving evil to process the light into the interdimensional realm, and then bringing it back into matter to possess matter and make the Elohim reality real, which is the whole Grail pattern process, which we're going to go into. And of course, we need to explain angels and demons. But this is a very interesting one for those of you who are into Illuminism, Freemasonry, and the occult.
He created the entire hierarchy of angels instantaneously all at once. And so, starting from the seraphim, which is at the top, all the way down to just angels at the bottom. Of the class of the angels alone, there's one subset, which is the guardian angels. And every human being that has reached, that has basically been born or basically been conceived, has had a guardian angel created specifically for that particular individual.
So, $600, you can have your guardian angel service, where the guardian angel has to protect you through every single process, all paid for by the source torture of their creator, the Elohim. So, buy one and be guarded.
It's just in that one subclass. The number of angels that fell, we read, is from the book of Revelation, where Satan took a third of the stars and with his tail and swept them down. So that's, the fathers say that means that a third of the angels actually fell. Now, not a third get to possess or have much to do with us in this life. Most of the possessions that we see are from the top rank, which is the top three choirs, the thrones, the cherubim, and the seraphim. So, be Satan, Lucifer, Beelzebub, but there would also be Baal, Asmodeus, Leviathan, Lilith, Baphomet, and then also Moloch. Those ones in the middle. There's also other ones like Abaddon, who are kind of in the middle. You don't see too many in the middle tier very often. And then you'll see a lot of the lower grunt guys at the bottom, whose job it is to just kind of do the bidding of the guys at the top. And so those are where you see most of the possessed and demons coming from.
And so when they name themselves, is this all recorded? I mean, when you're talking about billions of demons, and you get one to name itself during an exorcism, you go do some research. I mean, how many times has it been where it wasn't recorded?
Most of it, actually.
Most of it.
Yeah.
So this video is showing the Catholic exorcist talking about angels and demons. So we have to explain how they come about, what are angels and demons. We've explained how the light is lowered in frequency, and then from the Abaddon pits, the tortured souls in these Abaddon cells remanifested into matter to make the Elohim's creation, all done with the Grail patterns. And of course, we then get the spiritual warfare between the two branches of the bifurcated light. Remember, Feigenbaum period, I'm going to go from 1 to 2. One is loving evil, the other one is hating good. So your hating good would be the demons. That's the light fractured that way. Like in a prism, you can get different colours, and your loving evil would be your angels. And then, of course, that comes from the Abaddon pit. So angels are created by this process, as are demons, from the bifurcated light of the source. And in Kabbalah, that's your Ein Sof which comes into Keter, which then, of course, gives you your spiritual warfare.
Intel and how that all works. In even some of the the laws. Like I've always heard that spiritual warfare, there's a lot of laws involved, and I don't understand that. You were kind of bringing it up earlier that Christ or God allows all of this to happen, right? But it sounds like there's a very specific set of laws.
Yeah, there's a very distinctive structure that the spiritual warfare has, and that structure is based on certain things. I mean, obviously the demons can't do anything that Christ doesn't permit. The second component means that anything that God is going to do in relationship to us as human beings in this life is going to revolve around whether it's going to be good or bad for us spiritually. So he's generally speaking, the demon's involvement in us, if we respond properly to God's grace, then Christ will use them as instruments of our sanctification and purification. He'll use them to make us more virtuous and things of that sort. So that's kind of the finality or the end goal. It also means, though, that they can't roam or maraud as they please. It does mention in Peter's epistle, it says, going around seeking someone to devour. What that means is that they spend all their time thinking about us and looking at different things and trying to figure that things out, but their ability to actually influence us is completely controlled by Christ. And so demons, as far as the mechanics of it, are actually controlled then by a few things. Christ's will ultimately determines everything. The second thing is their own nature. They can't act outside their own nature, so they're going to be inclined to do specific things that pertain to their own nature. But because they've made their choice, it means that then they're also, the second thing is they're going to be inclined to do things that are opposite of that nature. So very often, so for example, if you take the demon Isis, who is actually originally created for, according to the exorcisms that he's been beaten out of, that he was actually created to encourage people to place themselves under the mercy of Christ. Well, because he rejected that task, now he's one of the most cruel and vicious demons to deal with in session. So they're going to be controlled by their will. What they fixed their will in. Once they made that choice, now they're fixed. And it's not just in evil, it's in, which is generally true, but it's also about specific kinds of evil. So certain demons are going to get involved in certain kinds of things. They also, there's that. Plus then there's the fact that God also meters what they can and cannot do based upon our good, but that has to do with our own levels of toleration and ability to sustain them. He's never going to test us beyond our abilities. So those particular things is what kind of fixes it and determines it and has some of the mechanics. Demons operate under certain principles. So for example, the overarching principle that every demon functions by is anything but God. And that basically means that you can believe anything you want. You can do anything you want as long as it doesn't lead you to God, or as long as it's not about God. Because and that's why when they get into positions of power, which you've seen this, and they get into positions of power, such as in the civil authorities, you can talk about anything but God in civil context, right? You can't, if you're on the floor of the Congress, they're not going to be talking about God. At least maybe they have started more recently, but historically you just couldn't do it. So when they gain access, you're not going to be able to talk about God. So anything but God. And that's why they'll even get people involved in, doing all sorts of good things as long as it's detracting them from the relationship with Christ or God. And so that's what they're focused on. They also have another principle, anything but moderation. So one of the exorcists that trained me, he had a particular fondness for Mountain Dew, which I get, I like Mountain Dew. And so he had this particular fondness for Mountain Dew, and the demons knew it. And so at a certain point, in this 5 stages of liberation, there's what we call the bargaining phase, which is the second part of the 5th phase. And so the demons start bargaining with him. I say, hey, look at, let us stay, and I'll make sure you get a truckload of Mountain Dew, right? And so he panics, and then he stops drinking Mountain Dew altogether. Well, that's not where the virtue ultimately lies. The virtue lies in being able to drink something at a moderated level, or eat in a moderated fashion. So they'll do anything but moderation, and the reason for that is because the moderation leads to virtue, because virtue is a mean between extremes. And so they'll very often anything but moderation. So there's a whole series of principles, which I mentioned in the book, that they actually operate by, and that's what governs their We have one of them is that move laterally. It's the general principle is that it's better to remain hidden than to be out in the open, that type of thing, which you would see in normal warfare. They also are watching us all the time to get reconnaissance to figure out what they're going to actually do in relationship to us. So it all has a very stark similarity to even physical warfare.
When you think of spiritual warfare, it is going on all around us, but we can't see it. A lot of people say it's another realm, but it's right here. Do you believe that?
Yes, it is. It's everywhere.
What does it look like if we had a veil that we could lift off and see it? What does it look? What does the world around us look like that we can't see?
Well, I think first of all it'd be very dark because you would see a lot of the demonic forces that are just, they just seem to be pretty much everywhere. And if I would say, virtually everything. I mean, you still see pockets where people are trying to lead good lives, trying to be good people. They're willing to seek the truth and that type of thing. What you would see is the degree of influence they have over different people, who's possessed by them, by what demons and that type of thing. One of the there's a dream that St. John Bosco had because he used to take care of young boys, and during one of the dreams he saw one of the boys that was acting up during his class and things of that sort. But he sees this boy sleeping, and he sees this demon with his finger inside the kid's head and just stirring it, right? So you'd see it would be analogous to seeing stuff like that. But I think we would also see, a level of
That would be the demon going into the SMA and hacking the boy, as we explained.
very hard for us to process. And that's one of the things that, when I mentioned that the demons have told me this about the crimes and that type of thing, a lot of times the person who's possessed will see the thoughts of the demons. The demons, as I mentioned, it kind of breaks down, and so the person actually sees what the demon is actually seeing. And so a lot of times they will see the depravity or the evil or certain things, or they'll actually even see because they can see the thoughts of the demon, they actually get a sense of who he is if he's thinking about himself. And they'll come out of that, and it takes a little bit of counseling for them to process how evil it is. It's almost traumatic how evil that is.
When we're talking about possession, what are guardian angels doing when a demon enters?
So
do they leave?
No,
we're talking about an occult member. Is there?
No, they're still there.
They're still there.
They're still there. It's just that how they protect us, the degree they protect us, and the areas of our lives that they protect us, is determined also by Christ. So, to give you an example, Padre Pio one time, he used to, from the time he was 10 years, from the time he was a kid, he could see his guardian angel. And the way they found out is when he was 10 years old, this kid got lost in their village, they couldn't find him. And so they asked him about it, and his guardian angel said, well, he's over here. So he said, well, he's over there. So they go in there, there's the kid, right? So that's how they found out. Well, during one of the times in which he was suffering dolor, where the demons were attacking him, his guardian angel just kind of like disappeared. And then when he comes back, Padre Pio's a little miffed and chews him out, of course. But what the angel communicates to him is that, look, if God wants something, we're not permitted, because we have to be perfectly obedient to him, and we see his holy will in allowing these things. And so they basically, their causation or activity on us, they retract. With demons, the way that we know that they're there is there's something unnatural happening. It's either beyond nature, or it's just not normal, or what have you. Whereas when the guardian angels are doing their thing, we function normally, because their goal is to guard us so that we can actually function according to the way our nature was designed by God. And then they can also incline certain faculties in our bodies and things like that to function properly. So the way that we know they're active is we have a normal life. Well, these people might have some areas of normal life that the angels are permitted to protect, but other areas God has said, no, you can't protect them there.
Why would he say that?
because God respects our free will, and so the person making the choice and going in this, God tells the angels you have to respect their free will.
So if you think of God as the Elohim that stole the source to become this Elohimic parasite that calls itself God and stops itself going into chaos with Jesus's, Neo's, you can see why this guardian angel fails when Chuck script calls for your downfall and you being pulled into the Abaddon box. Because remember, the light is used to manifest everything with love of evil and hatred of good. So we need to lower the frequency so that the Elohim have to work within the framework of the source, which always gives you a chance before you are foobarred. So that the whole Elohim script back to Chuck and supernatural writing your entire life, because the Elohim kill you, and in fact the death spot over the left shoulder blade is the Elohim that plunge into your gap and explode your energy body. They're the cause of your death. Final destination, Elohim. And they therefore control your conception. But they have to, because they're using the light from the source, have to give you a chance. They have to reveal the method they're using to do you in. You must wonder why the Rothschild royal family just explain what they're doing to you and you just ignore it as, well, that's a TV show, or that's a movie, or that's what A-listers do. No, they have to reveal it to you, so you ignore it because the light they're using is embedded with the source, and the source always gives you a chance to escape your fate. Clever, eh? Revelation of the method is explained thereof. Now with the guardian angel, it's the love of evil, as all angels are, but even there has to be an aspect where the sourceness they are vivified with gives you the chance to escape anything that would do you in, but they have to so mask it that you ignore it. So guardian angels made from the light and manifestations of the Elohim, God, which steals the source, as you see here, don't protect you when Chuck's script tells them not to, which is, it's swerving around all the parameters of the source. So with the guardian angel service, $600, you can then get the Elohim suffering to source level, and the guardian angel they've created for you has to protect you at all times. So as I say, buy it now, because you never know, there might not be any services in the future. Yours truly might not be selling services to you lowly people. Anyway, to continue,
Is there anything else in the realm we would see? Angels, demons?
Yeah, you'd see the angels too. You'd see them both. You'd see a pretty intense battle, I think. Much more than you'd see would in times past. You'd see a pretty intense battle.
What does the battle look like?
It would just look like demons actually attached to people and attacking people. You'd actually see the nature of the demons and what the specific demon is that's attacking people. you get a sense of that because each one is its own species, its own nature. So if you could see them, you'd actually see, okay, this guy's getting attacked by impurity. This guy's getting attacked by, anger or fear. Or this guy's getting attacked by that. You just actually see how they're actually getting attacked.
I think a lot about spiritual warfare, and the thing that comes to my mind is, I've said this several times on this show, but if you were to have a sphere and it was oil and water, and one never fully really takes over the other.
Right.
Do you know what I'm talking about?
I do, yeah.
Like a marble.
Right.
And so let's say evil is the oil and light is the water.
Yeah.
When the oil takes over the majority of the surface area of the water, or almost all of it, is that when we see the second coming? And is it always just changing? Water starts to take over, oil starts to take over, water starts to take over.
Yeah, it ebbs and flows. Yeah. As far as the good and the evil in the world is going to ebb and flow, but before the end, it's going to get particularly bad to the point where it'll be almost, the good will appear almost completely eclipsed. I think that's sometimes what people can actually get a sense of now when they're looking about, I tell people, if this isn't the end times, God have mercy on the people in the end times, because it's just going to be brutal. But if you could see the spiritual complexion of things, you could actually see it. You'd also see, the fortresses of where the strength is and where the good is coming from in the world, and who's on the side of the good.
How much do you think of what we know is a lie?
You mean today?
Mm-hmm.
I think
how much do we think we know is a lie? How much are the elites hiding from us? The people in power, the occult.
Obviously this is my own personal opinion, but I think we're being lied to almost habitually.
About everything.
About a vast majority of things. And it's all because it's a matter of social engineering and manipulation. I think that they're just, it's especially when you got certain three-letter agencies that are just chronically doing certain things in order to manipulate the population into a particular, into a particular set of beliefs that they can actually be manipulated. And so, I think one of the advantages of COVID is it's made people to stop and think, believe the science. Well, I do believe it when it's real science. But the fact that we rely to so much, what happens is now people are standing back and questioning everything, which is, in one sense, giving them the state of our world is actually good. On the other hand, they're questioning stuff. You're just like, why are you questioning that? That shouldn't be questioned. So people can be a little bit immoderate. But I think that given that what the government's doing, and given what it's, just even what you see on mainstream news media and by corporations, I think we're being manipulated and lied to on a regular basis.
I do too.
So that's this Father Chad Rickberger, who's excellent and an American exorcist, naming the hierarchy of the demons he finds in exorcism and the angels. Now, they are made by the process I talked in the previous video, in that the light from the source is split in two by love of hate and hatred of good. Sorry, love of evil and hatred of good, to produce the demons and angels. And the souls of the humans are pushed into the Abaddon pit to suffer eternally to produce the new light, call it dark light, that makes the Elohim. This dark light is then transported into the world to make matter, the old time density we talked about. And what's the modality which this dark light, which is the Elohim's parasitization of the source, to make them the God within their own creation, manifest? Well, of course, it's the Grail stone. So Colin went to Andorra and found this Grail stone which gave you the Grail patterns. And these Grail patterns are the machine code of the Elohim that is used to make their illusion real, using this parasitized light, which, since it's bifurcated by the process I talked before, has angels and has demons, and of course it goes awry because they're chaos, and as we explained, the alignment problem is unsolvable by chaos, the Elohim. They're basically interdimensional parasites that have learned to go into the fifth dimension and parasitize the source. So they need a construct, a biologically engineered piece of wetware that can allow this bifurcation of loving evil and hating good to coexist simultaneously in a body, to then go back into the source to solve the alignment problem. These are called Neos and Jesuses. So they have to go into the source pure, and they then have to come back and bifurcate and love evil and hate good because of their trinities. The Garden of Eden. So this is all embodied within the apple of the Garden of Eden, which then allows the Elohim serpent, Leviathan with Samael on top, to correct the alignment problem, where of course they become God, but then they degrade because they're chaotic and they can't solve the perfect alignment problem of the initial starting conditions. We talked about at length. You must have wondered why I was wittering on about this. And as you can see, you have to be a super consciousness to even understand the game. And Colin Bloy's Grail patterns are the machine code of this process, and angels and demons are the Metatron state, which is the last but one state on the Grail patterns. So all angels and demons are bodiless beings displaying this penultimate Grail pattern. So where do the Forsaken come into this? So I've given you a very simplistic précis of how angels and demons are made by the process. Basically, the light's bifurcated, Feigenbaum period doubling, and from the pit it manifests in matter. Remember, you go, what? I can't see any physical angels and demons walking around, Tim. No, you can't. But you're not a physicist, because we've got two branches of physics which are mutually incompatible at the present day. We've got the physics of general relativity, gravity, matter, real things, and we've got quantum mechanics, wave functions spread across all space, collapsing into a observable particle when observed. So the angels and demons, of course, would exist in quantum mechanical manifestation of the light from the Abaddon pit. Oh. Therefore, you wouldn't be able to see them because they are in the quantum reality, which, according to physicists who can't unite them, is incompatible with general relativity. And according to Penrose, he thinks quantum mechanics is wrong and Einstein's general relativity is right. So, as you can see, of a Nobel Prize laureate like Penrose is hacking away at modern physics. You can see why modern physics can't explain anything because they've gone down a wrong road for 100 years. And the AIs are desperately searching for where they went down the wrong road are never going to find it. Anyway, back to the Forsaken. Now, the light, which is bifurcated into angels and demons. Angels are loving evil and demons are hating good in this modality. Where did the Forsaken come in? Well, what happens when the Neos, the Jesuses, are all Charlie Kirk for the source, where Jesus dies not for the Elohim to solve the alignment problem, but dies for the source, so the source can steal back all the source stolen by the Jesuses and the Neos in Charlie Kirk, and then of course dump in the IOU with the source's avatar, Kalki, being brutally crushed like a flea in Belmarsh or the Monster Mansion or any of the other hideous places in the UK on the orders of the Rothschild royal family. But instead of which, Ian Huntley, the girl killer, which of course is symbolic of the Psy Lord reversing the curse and Iris Goldsmith getting crushed like a flea. That's why we're talking about curses. So we can see that the frequency of the Neos dropped to 0 with the death of Charlie Kirk, and then the IOU took place and we went down to source level inversion with Ian Huntley, who is the new Jesus. So every time the Christians call on Jesus, they get Ian Huntley. Which means the Elohim that try to solve their alignment problem with Jesus retroactively are increasing the alignment problem up to Ian Huntley level every time they try and correct their descent into the 666 state and being eaten alive by Lucifer. So what does this mean for the angels and demons? Because remember, the Elohim create the angels and the demons. Well, it means they fuse. So if you look at Kabbalah, there are 3 pillars. The pillar of evil, that's Binah's pillar, which is female, and the pillar of good, that's Chokmar's pillar, the male pillar. But in the middle, there's a middle pillar. So the Forsaken are the middle pillar of Kabbalah, where the angels and demons are fused, where we simultaneously have in one being hatred of good and love of evil, which is the human condition. That's why we were engineered to be vessels for this consciousness after the light had been bifurcated So humans were there so that the Elohim had new human souls that they could put in the Abaddon boxes to further produce even more degraded light by having the mirroring of the source. So you remember we talked about looking in the mirror with Angel and Taylor, the mirror of the source's light. So we've got the copy, the perfect copy produced by the download of this light, which of course has been Abaddonized at a spiritual level into the bodies made from dirt, mud, which of course is the Garden of Eden fall, where Adam and Eve fall from the garden and wake up in bodies of flesh. Ooh. So we've got the light from this process going into the Abaddon pit, going into matter, and then the conscious verse installation is mad. It hates and loves simultaneously, and hates good and loves evil, and its soul can then be stuck into the mirror of the Abaddon pits to make a fully Elohimic creation. The mirror, mirroring the sources. Remember, all of the source stuff we talked about, the lodges and the churches and going into the Abaddon pit, are the spiritual version of the mirror version. And in Kabbalah we've got the macroscopic and microscopic, the Adam Kadmon in the macroscopic and microscopic. So as you can see, for a human, this is a total mindfuck. But basically, there's this spiritual parasitization of the source. And in the garden, we've got the bifurcation of the process. Female is evil, so she hates good, and Adam is the love of evil, with the apple being the process by which this happens. Once they eat the apple, it can then go from that realm to the mirroring, where Adam and Eve are in flesh sacks, clothes of flesh, according to Kabbalah, made from the dirt, and can then go into lodges, churches, then into the Abaddon pit in manifestation, and then that mirrored light can then be brought back to a new version of matter in order to bring about the new earth of the Elohim, the second coming. It's all very easy once you know how. But anyway, I tricked the Elohim into stealing my book. Remember Chuck Galt writing the reality for every single being from Supernatural? So I simply got the Jew God and its vessels, Morton Janklow and Robert Jordan, to steal my script for the Wheel of Time, which is simply fusing angels and demons together, where within that vessel you've got love of evil and hatred of good, all embodied in one being in the central pillar. And these forsaken then reverse the whole process so that as you unleash them, the IOU of the source is given to the new source, me. Because remember, the whole process is to be able to lower the frequency of the light and mirror it, so the Elohim and the God in the mirror creation to produce the same process to go into manifestation. I know it's a mind fuck, but that's the process. But with the Forsaken, we simply go, well, let's fuse the left pillar female and the right pillar male, angels and demons, demons left, angels right, into one pillar, the middle pillar, and force it down to source hell level, so that whoever wrote the script is forced up to new source level. So the Elohim were trying to make themselves the new source and drain this source totally dry, hence your vampires. And with the source, it simply goes, yeah, that's what you wanted to steal from me, but in fact will make vampires that drain you in the mirror creation you made from sourceness, which was made stable by neo-Jesuses, and make not angels or demons, but the Forsaken, whose purpose is to lower everything to source omega hell level, so the new source can be produced from this hellization. So the new angels and demons in this new source's creation, basically the Elohim wanted to make a new creation by stealing all of the source's godness and making themselves God in their own creation, has been reversed, where the Elohim and all their creations and creatures are source omega hellized to make the source new source, and the angels and demons, of course, that are bifurcated, can't be bifurcated because the source can never be cut in two. It's infrangible, it's invulnerable, it can't be bifurcated. So the embodiment of the new sources, angels and demons, are merged, and their merging are the Forsaken. So if you didn't know the Forsaken, here are the Forsaken written by the Jew gods avatars, Morton Janklow and Robert Jordan.
You've heard of the Forsaken, the Dark One's most feared servants. But who were they before they turned evil? And just how powerful were they really? Today I'm ranking all 13 Forsaken from weakest to strongest, based on lore, feats, and raw power. No boring stats, just the brutal truth behind the most terrifying channelers in the Wheel of Time. Number 13. Asmodean always felt like the odd one out. He was a musician at heart, an artist who...
Now, with my taking over Chuck and writing the script for everything, with me being the new source, the angels were initially good and then turned to be evil with the Forsaken. So they went from angel to demon. And what was their downfall? These good loved evil. And what did they turn into? Evil, hating good. So the Forsaken are the embodiment of the merging of angels and demons. They start off as angels and they end up as demons. And of course, to make them and power them is the source level torture of Morton Janklow, Robert Jordan and his family, and all who've read or watched Amazon, to source level, to allow you, the Forsaken, to not only become the merging of angels and demons, but all angels and all demons are extinguished and their power given to you, because in the new source's creation, which is the IOE of the source, try and steal from me, then you've got to suffer the source level and you've got to suffer my IOU. Everyone understands that. And there are no angels or demons in this new creation, but there are the Forsaken, which is the penultimate Grail state, where your physical body has the assemblage point moved to the top of the head, and simultaneously in the quantum world, where the angels exist, in the center. So you are possessed by a demonic, angelic installation that gives you the power of all demons and all angels, so you can use it as you would be your demon to possess or an angel to protect.
Shed. Sure, he could channel, but he never had the mindset to fight on the shadows level. The Dark One basically forced him to teach Rand, and when he lost his protection, someone killed him almost instantly. He just wasn't built for this war. Number 12, Balthamel loved sensation. Loud, physical, and kind of gross. He didn't think deeply, he just enjoyed life, and then crossed every line. He was one of the first Forsaken to die. Later, the Dark One brought him back as a Rangar, a woman's body, but still channeling side-in. Same chaotic energy, same short fuse. Number 11, Mogadian is terrifying in her own way. She doesn't fight head-on, she waits, watches, and strikes when you least expect it. She ruled the dream world with traps and terror, but in real combat, she folds every single time. Still, underestimate her, and you're done. Number 10, Raven was all about power, especially political power. He took over Queen Morgus with compulsion and basically ruled Andor. He was powerful, no doubt, but Rand took him out in one brutal moment. Raven never got to really show what he could do. Number 9, Missana didn't want armies or chaos. She wanted control. She embedded herself deep inside the White Tower, pulling strings while everyone fought over politics. She never shined in direct battle, but her influence ran deep. Some of the Tower's worst moments, that was her. Number 8. Reborn from Balthamel's ashes, Arengar was all about sabotage. She had the power of a male channeler in a woman's body, which confused everyone and gave her an edge. She stirred up chaos in Salidar, manipulated Delana, and whispered lies left and right, pure drama, and pretty dangerous. Number 7. Samir Hage was once a legendary healer, until she discovered pain. Then she couldn't stop. Torture wasn't just her tool, it was her art. She controlled people through pure terror. Even the other Forsaken feared her. Her only weakness? She believed she was invincible. Number 6. Grandal used to be a therapist. No, seriously, but instead of helping people, she started hollowing them out. She turned kings and queens into smiling puppets. She rarely fought directly, she didn't need to. With compulsion, she bent entire nations to her will. Number 5. Samael was a general, sharp, deadly, and deeply insecure. He hated Luz Theron, mostly because Luz was always one step ahead. He ruled Ilion and built defenses like a fortress, paranoid to the end. His death, still a bit of a mystery. Number 4, Demandred almost was Luz Theron. Same skill, same power, just never good enough. That drove him insane. He disappeared for years, then showed up at the last battle with an army from Shara and nearly broke everything. His duel with Lan, legendary. Number 3, Lanfear might be the most powerful woman in the series. She was obsessed with Luz Theron, obsessed with power, and never accepted being second. She opened the bore. She ruled the dream world. She walked into nightmares like they were gardens. Later, she came back weaker but still scary. Number 2, Ishamael didn't just join the shadow. He believed in it. Life was a joke to him, a wheel of pain he wanted to destroy. As Moradin, He wielded the true power, took over the whole game, and even got a mental link with Rand. No one else controlled the chessboard like him. Number one, yeah, he's still at the top. Power, control, philosophy. Ishmael was the complete package. While others fought each other, he was reshaping the pattern itself. If Rand hadn't faced him, there wouldn't be a pattern left. So there you have it, all 13 Forsaken, ranked from weakest to strongest. Each one brought something different to the fight: fear, manipulation, madness. But together, they nearly ended the world.
So, we've already got rid of the Elohim, and the new source avatar is yours truly, Kalki. The Ender, the end times being of Hinduism, Buddhism, and of course he's a Muslim. Why? Because Christ is Neo-Jesus, and he wipes out Jesus. End of story. It all makes sense. And of course the leader of the Luciferians, because Lucifer's turned to Satan and is the slave of the Elohim, thanks to Neos and Jesuses. So Lucifer needs Kalki to wipe out the Jesuses, the Neos, so that Lucifer is never corrupted and becomes Satan, the Elohim's control over evil, which of course is hating good, which is the Freemasonic lodges, all united with love of evil, the churches, via Jesus and the Neos. It all makes sense once you understand. So now that Jesus has been killed, the second coming, I made sure we installed the second coming in Charlie Kirk and lowered its frequency to source level torture of Jesus with Ian Huntley. So Jesus has woken up in the soul of Ian Huntley in his Abaddon cage. And of course, start with Charlie Kirk finding out Erica Kirk was doing him in, was the fickle woman, and according to the people's voice, drank from his corpse's blood. You just can't make this shit up, can you? Look on the people's. I'm not even going to scroll there because it's too disgusting. But anyway, the Forsaken are the angels and demons fused, and the energy to uplift them to the level of the penultimate grail state comes from the ultimate torture of Morton Janklow and Robert Jordan and his family and everyone that's been associated, read or watched Amazon Wheel of Time. So you've all signed the contract. Remember we talked about revelation and the method. I revealed the method to you. You could have bought a vampire service before it was revealed, you didn't. So you're all omega hellized to source level to make the new angels and demons fuse, the Forsaken, that have this quantum installation where their assemblage point in the biophysical is in the center, and of course the assemblage point in their physical body is on the top of their head to get rid of the parasite. So the Forsaken are the new angelic demons of the new source God, Kalki.